as we discussed last week. And Sandeep, so sorry, I didn't forget about sending you those code samples. I had some hand injuries, so I was kind of keeping off away from my laptop for a week and was on PTO for the whole week. But I'll do send it after this meeting, that code segment which we were talking about last week.
Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, welcome all. This is what our 76th BC Open discussion. And as it's near to the March ending, we are we have Business Central 2022 release wave 1 previews available, and in a very short span of time that will be an actual product to be downloaded and upgraded for our customers. So let's quickly go through some of the things that I was able to figure out during this weekend, and rest will continue going through about things. So yeah, where do you go to register for these meetings? On this link. If you're watching this recording on YouTube, you can go into this link and register every week. This meeting invite gets updated mostly after this meeting or by max by tomorrow. You can also add questions here if you have any questions. And if you are here and don't want to get into the hassle of registering every week, then drop your name and email in the chat, and I'll make you default attendees going forward. Okay, so first thing first, about the availability, which is super cool that Microsoft is working with partner community in a very good way. And there are more and more countries that are being added into the product in every release. So in the upcoming release, as per the Microsoft documentation, there are 20 new countries being added with Business Central capabilities. Most of these countries have localization built by partners and not by Microsoft. And these 20 new countries will be available after cumulative update 1 of Business Central 20, which is somewhere around in May 2022. So with these 20 new countries added, this makes Business Central available in 70 countries as per Microsoft documentation. So if you have customers around these areas, then in those regions, Microsoft have partner driven localization, which will be available on App Source, and I'm pretty sure they will also be available for on-prem customers by the partners. Okay, going forward, when I was going through the list, this was the first topic that struck me on that, where Microsoft have added a new setup for blocking deletion of GL account. So there are some checkpoints that need to be made sure before you actually start deleting GL accounts. And the balance of account should be 0, that we all know, and then the close of physical year to prevent the new entries being added to that account should have been done. But then I know, and most of us know, that for many countries, there are a certain period of time that you want to have the historical financial data. You just don't want to delete ledgers or delete GL accounts till a certain period of time has been passed away. So for that, Microsoft have added the check GL account deletion date. And if I'm not wrong, that was already added into a minor release of BC19. The only new change that's available with Business Central 20, or will be available from Business Central 20, will be a blocking of deletion of GL account, which you can toggle on and off as an administrator. If you specify the date based on your country and region in this field on the general ledger setup, and this field value will only be applicable if the block deletion of GL account is set to no. Then and only then system will look for those entries. If you haven't blocked the deletion of GL entries boolean on your general ledger setup, system will ask some questions to user before they start deleting. And if it matches, if the user approves it, kind of says yes on those questions, then the GL account will be deleted. So let's quickly go into Business Central 20 previews and see where that setting is. Let me zoom this in. So this is more or less everywhere now. In the previous releases, Microsoft did add this on the sales and purchase setups for allowing a date on which you can delete the posted documents, like posted sales invoices and shipments, not shipments, I guess, only invoices. And same for the purchase. So on the similar lines, there is this check GL account deletion after. And then there is this new boolean to block deletion of GL account, which prevents user for deleting the GL account with ledgers that are after the date in this field. So these are the two new setups available, and if you look at it, they did enable a caption for the boolean fields. So not just a toggle, you have a notification of is it set to on or off. It's just for the visual purposes that you understand that what kind of settings you are turning it on or off. Anyone else have read about it? Anything that I missed on it?
No, it looks good.
Okay, so let's move to the next one, which is auto accept transaction for intercompany journals. So those who have worked with intercompany in past, especially in Dynamic Snap, it was a one, two, three, four-step process for a whole intercompany document to transfer from one company to other. You create a document, then you send it for intercompany, then you go into this page where you select the transaction, you send it, then you go to the other company, you accept it, and then you convert it to a document. There was an enhancement done, I guess, to release earlier, before this release, where Microsoft did a auto send transaction and auto receive transaction for intercompany, so that you don't have to go these many steps to just to make sure that it is sent and it is received. But it was not considering journal transaction in that enhancement. So here with Business Central 20, they have enhanced that, which means that now with the new intercompany setup, you can define the template and the badge, which will be used to kind of create these transactions, and it will only create those journal transactions into the target company. It will not post them. As of today, the new intercompany setup, which supports auto accept transactions for journals, is available via feature management, which means it's baked in, but it's not enabled by default. So if you have a customer who want to use it, you can still use it by going into feature management and enabling this. But as Microsoft policies, they will keep this feature, the old intercompany setup feature, available till 2023 release wave 2. And then in 2023 release wave 2, this will be the only setup that you can use. The older one will be kind of deprecated at that time. So let's see how it looks today and then how you enable it. So when you go into your Business Central and you search for your intercompany setup, you'll see two pages. One is the new one and one is the old one. If you haven't enabled it, you'll get a warning like this that you have to enable it. And you can still use the old one, which is just this, where you need to define the partner code of the other company and do you want to auto send the transactions or not. If you have a customer who would like to use this feature, I'm pretty sure everybody knows it by now. There's a feature management screen which kind of gets updated every release based on what features have been enabled by default and which features are still in kind of optional to be used. So if you remember, let me see if I can open the BC190, BC195. Okay. This screen will differ. The feature management screen will differ in these two versions because there were some changes which are now enabled by default. And one of them was, if I'm not wrong, enhanced email capabilities. This was going away into the new email capabilities with the enhanced email feature. And this feature should not be available in this screen now, enhanced email capabilities, because that's by default now. So as time goes by, this list will keep on expanding and collapsing as the feature becomes automatically enabled after that time. And this kind of gives you an idea on which areas of your of your customization you need to start paying attention to, because this will tell you that okay, if you have customs around this area, then you should start thinking about it and refactor those into the new model. So if you are on version 19 and lower and your customer want to upgrade to version 20, then you should be looking at anything which is targeted like these, at least these three, oh, four. So all these features will now be available or will have been automatically enabled, and the old feature set would have been removed. So if your customer, as I said earlier, on Business Central 19 or lower and using the old SMTP email things, they will get errors in the next upgrade, either on-prem or SaaS. You'll have to refactor those. In the similar lines, there's not a major change on this one, so there should not be any problems on this. The tracking package number in reservation and tracking system. So yeah, the major thing that's kind of going away with this release is having uses of the old SMTP capabilities. So keep an eye on it if you have customers around it, and make sure that they don't get hurt with the next upgrade. If you have customers on SaaS, you would have been getting notifications from Microsoft that this extension has some compatibility issues with Business Central 20. So on the similar lines, here on Business Central 20, there are more features which are being added, and then there is a date that you need to pay attention to. So what happens in the next release, that's important always. If you're modifying the system, I'm still looking for that pricing change is still, oh, it's delayed till 2022, quarter two of 2023. So there is still time, but this was another thing that was going away, but it kind of got delayed. So coming back to our intercompany thing, if your customer would like to use the intercompany, the new feature, then there should be something here. Yeah, automatically accept intercompany journal, and then you choose it for all users. There are two types of feature in feature management. One where you can turn it off and turn it on based on your testing, but then there are some features which you cannot revert back because there is a data upgrade that runs behind the scene when you enable this. And the accept intercompany journals is one of those which you cannot revert back to the old way if you have enabled it in one of the tenant. So make sure that you test it out on the sandboxes or on the test environment before you actually enable it. So once you enable it, you need to sign out and sign back in, which should be easy enough, I guess. Let me see. Okay. So now I should be able to use the new intercompany setup, which is this, which I was showing you. And then this here you can select your template, your batch, and then the IC partner code is as it was earlier. There's a Power Automate section which we'll cover some other day because it needs some setups and all. So if you have customers who are looking for this, then you can enable this on their environment by going into the feature management. If they are on SaaS, they can set up a preview environment today and test out this new feature on a Kronos database, or otherwise they can wait for upgrades to happen and then test out on their sandboxes. Any questions? Anything that I missed? Okay, let's move to the next item, which is payment reconciliation journal. And I haven't used this feature for a very long time, and I don't know why, because it was not so much baked in when it was initially released, and I kind of skipped this. But there's an enhancement on the payment reconciliation journal screen where now you can preview before you post, which was one of the idea which was shared in the Microsoft idea list, and they kind of enabled it at that time. And they also added the credits and debit field on the footer section of your payment reconciliation journal screen. So if you have a customer who is using it, now they can actually preview the journal before they actually post it. So I'm pretty sure I'll have some data. Okay. So here it is, that's the credit and debit. And then when you go into the posting, you can also do preview posting like you are able to do currently in sales and purchase document. So that makes it easier for people who would like to review their entries before they actually post it, and then even navigate there and see which accounts are being used for when they actually post this transaction. Okay. This seems, as in for one of our customers who wanted this, this seems a great feature added into the jobs area, where Microsoft have added the sell to, bill to, and also ship to details on the jobs and other fields which are available. Now, as a project manager, if you're creating a job, you can specify a different sell to and a different bill to customer on the job card as you can do today in the sales transactions. You can also use the ship to address as we can use it on the sales transactions today. And then there are some additional fields which are specifically your reference number, your external document number, payment term, and payment method code, which will be helpful while these get converted. These jobs get converted. Now, what happens when you upgrade to this Business Central 20? If you are on prem or on SaaS, the new fields which are added, like sell to customers fields, the numbers, the names, and all, they get the data as it is from bill to customer number, assuming that you had the same sell to and bill to, because in the legacy versions till BC19, there was nothing called as sell to customer, which is in the job. The same for the ship to customer, it gets the detail from bill to customer and all the new fields, which is your reference number, external document number, payment term, and payment method code will be left as blank. And you need to set it up on your existing jobs if required. Microsoft document says it very clearly that there are some known issues and they will fix it in next minor, which will be 19.1. I'm hoping that the payment method code and payment term code are not auto populated from the customer selected into the bill to customer number field, but that seems an easy fix. I don't know why it will take so much time on it, but they will bake it in as per the documentation. So let's see, do we have jobs in here or not? Okay, so they have some jobs, and then Here is your sell to customer number, name, and all those things. And then when you come down, you get your bill to details like any other document. And then you have your ship to details where you can again choose, like in your sales document, that you want to bill to the default customer, to the other customer, or to a customer address. And then it works as it is, as it used to be in other application areas. Same for ship to. Now, those are the three changes that they did on the jobs, adding capabilities of build to, ship to, and sell to as separate, and then adding these four fields over here about external document number, your reference, and the payment method and payment term code. Thoughts, questions on this one?
Looks like a good feature to have.
Yeah, as in, I know for a fact that we have a customer who was looking for something like this. So they'll be happy to see this for sure. Okay. Moving forward, there is this copy link from the share menu. So if you haven't noticed, Microsoft have shifted the edit in Excel, uh, the save to Excel, then share to Teams, and now the copy link into a separate icon of itself called the share tab here on each page or on most of the pages. With a copy link, it kind of copies the hyperlink of that page. If you do it from the list, then it takes the reference of all the records in that list. If you do it from card, then it links it to the one of the document that is selected. It then copies the link into the clipboard, but based on where you are pasting it, it has different nuances. If you paste it into a notepad, then it'll come as a a normal hyperlink. So let's see if I'm on vendors, and if I, and here's that button, all your sharing options, edit in Excel, open in Excel, and everything will be placed here in all the pages. So if you do a copy link, it kind of gets copied into the clipboard. And if you open a notepad and try to paste it, it'll just be a simple plain hyperlink text. But if you open, let's say, OneNote or Microsoft Word, it'll actually be translated into a hyperlink, something like this, which is then easier to kind of navigate to that particular document. This is only available on your modern clients, which is the web client. It's not available on your phone client or neither on your Outlook inside page within your Outlook. So that's just available on most of the pages. And why I'm saying most of the pages, because there are some specific type of pages which are excluded from these options. And this is a platform feature. This is something we cannot code. So if it is not available on certain page type, it will not be available because it's kind of rendered from the application. It's nothing that a code is written behind the scene for this.
I do have a question. So I cannot add edit in Excel if it's not there.
Yes, if edit in Excel is not there, and for edit in Excel, I'll have to think about it because
No,
maybe
I was able to do it actually. Let me just copy the code snippet. This is done on sales and orders.
yeah, because that's what I was saying, that for edit in Excel, I'm pretty sure Microsoft have converted it from the
There's a
platform to a code segment that you
yeah,
can
there's a
then.
code unit. There's a code unit already. It is in Excel. You could use it with old
Oh,
data.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that in the last version, I guess in BC 19 or 18, Microsoft did highlighted that if you have to extend edit in Excel in certain pages, then that'll be possible because they removed it from the application or the platform feature to a code-based feature. So that's good to know. Thanks, Sam.
No problem.
Okay, what's next is the default dimension on locations. So with Business Center 2022, the default dimensions, as we know, is available in most of the masters, is now also available on the location cards. You can set it up the default dimension as you are able to do it in other masters like in customers, vendors, and jobs and all. And they will behave in the same way as other dimension do and will get copied into the documents and journals when you specify the location code on those documents. We can use all the common dimension features like priorities combination with the location dimension. So let's quickly look at that because there is a question around it. I guess we'll spend a little bit time on that later. Now on the locations, if you choose a location, you now have capability to kind of add dimensions to this location if required, and that adds it into the default dimension table. So you can define what dimension value you are using. Is it same code, no code, and mandatory? And then there is this allowed dimension filter where you can set is it allowed to a certain range, but I guess in that case you don't have to specify the value. You can limit it here saying I need whenever this location is used a dimension value of let's see, this is hard, they should have done it, remove all, I guess that would have been easier. So you can say I need 70 selected and then 50 and then 30 or 40. With allowed dimension value filter, the system will check that because it's code mandatory, the users should use either of these values. They cannot choose any other value out of this set. And that gets checked during posting. So you can set up others like same code, no code, and other things as it is. Once you have set this up, each location, if you create, let's create a sales order for location East. Okay, and then you come down here and choose your location code as, and let's look at the dimensions first. Okay, they moved it.
Order button, order button.
It's always hard. They keep on changing things. So right now area is already set to 70 and customer group is already set to small. So let me remove these for the time being. Okay, so right now there is only department and salesperson. Let's add a location code East. That will update the dimensions. And we'll get area as 70. Okay, that revalidated it. But if I go ahead and choose 10, it will allow me here. But during posting, because it is out of that catch, it should stop me. Let's close it down. And let's add an item. Okay. That'll also add it in the lines for sure. Look at it. Okay. So here it is, dimension 10 that kind of get copied from the header. Let's try to preview post it. It seems to be posted. Let's try to post it. It did post it. That means
Because you replaced it, no?
sorry.
Because you deleted those existing lines and the dimensions were copied from the location itself. So why will it give error?
I
Just check.
had set it to 10, right? And it should prioritize it also from the location. Oh, maybe I need to check the dimension combination of priorities. Maybe location is not into the dimension priorities. Because what I'm thinking is it's taking the dimension from here. Let's navigate to this. Okay, there is dimensions. Okay,
Related customer.
related customer dimension. Now, thanks. So yeah, here it is code mandatory. And if I look at the dimension priorities, that will clarify it. For dimension priority, and if I look on, say, sales, there's no priority set. Okay, but I'm pretty
Ideally,
sure.
it should have given the error.
Yeah, but let's try it out here. If I go ahead and limit it here, navigate, because I know this feature work. If I set it to 10, 20, and leave 30, and then only 70. So I'm allowing it to be 30 or 70. Okay, and then let it be 70. That's okay. That's one of the allowed value. Now, if for this customer, if I create one, see what happens. It will bring the dimensions, and let's navigate to related dimension. This came as 70 because we have set it there, but if I choose it to be, say, 10, and close this, and let's add an item. Let's try to preview post this, and here it is. This is what I was expecting. So somewhere I need to kind of correct this. Now, this is kind of an example of how you use that allowed value filter. If that is not allowed in your filter on your default dimension, then you'll end up with an error message like this, that you will not be able to use area 10 because it is not allowed for customer 1000. And the source of this error is from default dimension for table number 18, which is customer, and the customer number is 1000, the dimension is area, and the source field which is causing this error is allowed value filter. Then you can also now open the related record from here, which will again open the sales order, but then it should be able to open the document here. And then from navigate to dimension, it should be 30 or 70. If I pipe in the value 10, I don't know, can I do that or not, but let me give it a try. Oh, I guess I can. If I pipe in the value 10 here, and now if I try to post this, okay, it should be applicable to be posted with that value. So this is not something which is new. It was available in the previous release. I'll have to check about the why location is not taking priority, as it is in consideration while I'm trying to post a document, and it is defaulting it to taking priority of customer rather than of location. But that is something that's being added. I would surely suggest to give it a try and see how that works. And if there are problems, I guess Microsoft is listening on the suggestion portal, the ideas website. So you can always create a new idea and suggest those changes over there. Any thoughts, questions about it? Because the last thing that is left now is somebody had a question. So I want to discuss about that in a while, for a while. Okay. So the next one is a question from Tanya, and her question was around from her understanding how dimension set IDs are created, and also wanted to know how dimensions on the requisition line flow to purchase order slash lines. So for her, as she's not here, but for others who don't know it, a dimension set, as in this concept, was introduced in when NAV 2013, after the NAV 2009 era. Is that unique combination of a given pair of dimension code and dimension value. So in the previous versions of NAV, the dimensions were tied to the document against which you are assigning them. Like for sales order, there was a separate table which was for document dimension, and then there was a posted document dimension which used to store dimensions per document, and then there was a journal dimensions and things like that. The problem with that structure was the performance, because there were so many entries if you consider a bigger database uh, for a customer. So the new model that Microsoft came in NAV 2013 is works on some very basic stuff. The first one is, as soon as you add a new dimension value in your system, there is a field which is behind the scene, which is not visible on the page, but the system defines something called as dimension value ID. And you can check it in any version after NAV 2013. So the dimension is your area that you want to investigate on, and then for each dimension, there is a dimension set of dimension values. So what we see, or what our users see as in the screen, is just the dimension code and dimension name, and are they begin total and end total. But if you go behind the scene and check on about this page or inspect, you will find a field called dimension value ID, which is here. And that's just sequential. As soon as you add a new dimension value, a auto increment number is assigned to each dimension value that you're using. So if we quickly see, the last number that's used here is 11. And I'm pretty sure if I add a new one, I'll not get 12. So let's give it a try. Let me add it here. No, okay, I'll indent it later. Let's do it 81. Test value. The standard. And that's it. So as soon as I come out of it, what is it? There are no allowed value. It happened. There are no allowed dimension values selected. Allowed dimension values.
Can you make it 90?
I was trying to add it between this so that I don't have to kind of indent it later. That's weird. Okay. It should be possible, but okay, let me refresh this. Okay, let's do a new one. Let's again try 81. Standard, yes. Okay, no. Okay, let's try 97. Okay. Allowed dimension value selected. Allowed dimension value selected. How I do that?
I had never seen this error.
Yeah, this is maybe this is. Do I need to indent this? Maybe this is beta or as in the preview. Let's try it on BC19. Maybe there's something baking in which they haven't tested yet. Okay, let's add the value here and let me zoom this in. Let me try to do the same thing. 81 test value standard. Okay. Oh, I'm seriously doing something
Is it
wrong.
because of license?
No, I'm using a partner license already. There are no allowed dimension values selected. Where is allowed dimension value? Is that a field? Something like that. I don't know.
Can you go to edit list?
I'm actually in the edit list right now.
Don't then click on new.
Now click on new. Okay, let me do it here. Oh, is it the placement? Okay, let me do list. Under. I don't need to click for this. No, it hates me. And maybe I haven't done it for a while.
Is it something because in the URL the filter or something is coming up?
No, it should not. Let me go back. So this is a standard dimension page. Can I go directly to dimension value? No, I should not. Okay. Dimension. What are other options? Function, map. Okay, nothing. Dimension values. Okay, I'm already on edit list. Let me do a new and do a 61 this time. Can I do an init? No.
Now can you do one thing? Can you go back once please? On the
Okay.
dimensions. In the tabs, click on dimension. There's a new option there, allow dimension values per account. What is this?
Per account. This is just that filter, what we have said.
Fine.
This is just that filter. Okay, this is something that I surely need to have a look. How we add a new dimension value. Okay, I'll check that. But okay, the idea was that when you go into the dimension values, there is a field behind the scene which talks about your dimension value ID. And this is not just in sequence, it's based on when you added it, the way you added it, in the sequence of they get added. The first one gets 1, the 20th one gets 20 because it's an auto increment field. And this dimension value ID field is used kind of as a secondary key to scan the whole dimension scheme, dimension tree that's kind of get created behind the scene. So everything that happens is actually written in one single page and one single code unit, which is when you go into any of your document or journal and you open your dimension page. As soon as that page closes, that's where the magic begins. And what's that magic is here when you go into your navigate. Sorry. I'm always bad with it. Yeah. This page, on the close of this page, there is a code which then travels to code unit 480, which scans a tree of dimensions based on dimension value IDs and then returns you a dimension set ID if it exists, and if it does not exist, it actually creates that. So let kind of maybe a visual representation will help for it. So take this example, and this is from Microsoft site. On your dimension set tree node, and this is the kind of the main table which keeps the whole tree of your dimension values stored. The value 0 will always be blocked for Microsoft. It's kind of a parent or the root node value which will be blocked. And as the dimensions are being created in the system, either on your documents or your journals, each dimension combination gets a unique number in the tree node. So for example, if on a journal, you just added a dimension called area and the value selected as 30, you don't even have to post it. As soon as you close that dimension window on your journal or on your document screen, the tree node creates an entry that it's at the first level with where the value is area 30. If in the next document you use area 30 and then you also use department admin, then the tree actually adds a child node to this, the first tree, which gets the ID as 2. So when the system tries to scan it, it kind of scans it based on the tree and then traverses it down. So if you have a document where there is uh, area 30, department admin, and project as VW, the dimension set ID that system will return you is 4 because that's what it traverses it to. So as I was saying, and these combination, if you want to look behind the scene, are actually stored into this table called dimension set entry. But let's first have a look on the tree node, which is 481. Because this is super interesting to watch in, as in it doesn't look like it as a tree, but it should, if I come here, as it goes to the table, goes to 481. So if you look at the tree node, the first ID which I said will be blocked is the 0. And these are the first dimensions that are created in the system. They are kind of traversed based on the dimension value ID, which comes from the dimension value table, and they get a unique number as soon as a new dimension value is created. So it tells that at the parent 0, there are what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 child items which are available, on which these value IDs are used. And then there is a mapped dimension set ID corresponding to these. At the same time, you see this boolean called in use. So what happens about the in use is there a document available in the system who is using this combination or not? Based on this, in use is kind of flipped on or off. The scenario would be that, let's say you created a document, you assigned a dimension, a unique combination that haven't been created for this environment till now, and then you decide to delete it. At that point, the dimension combination in the tree node is already created and it will remain there, but it will just be marked as in use as false. But tomorrow, if there is another user who creates the same combination, it will not create it, it will just flip the switch of in use to true. So it's kind of for Microsoft behind the scene to make it easier to handle it. And if you have to look for the combination, then you should go for your table 480. This is the flat kind of combination where you say that, oh, my dimension set ID is 1, and then it returns you that, oh, then you just have area 70 as one dimension attached to it. If there is a dimension set ID 3 that is attached to your document, then eventually, which means that you will get this combination. So anytime you use this combination, the dimension set ID on your journal or on your document will be set to 3. and let's give it a try. So I'm just taking a screenshot of this and I'm pasting it here on my MS Paint so that we can refer to this. Sorry. And let's create a, let's say a sales order. No, sales order maybe will be hard. Let's do an item journal. Okay, there's already so many lines here. So let's pick one line and let's go into dimensions of this. So right now there is no dimensions. So let me try to assign these values here. And let's say area as, and before we do that, let me close this. And let's see the dimension value ID of this. We'll see that the dimension set ID right now is set to 0, which is kind of the parent or the root node, where there are no dimension attached to it. And then if I go into the dimension page and set it to area, and then the value that was over there was 70, it'll not be set right now until unless I close this. So the other combination that was there was customer group as a small, and the last combination there was department sales. Till this point, there is no dimension set ID created for this or reviewed by the system. As soon as I close this page, and you can go back and check into the edit dimension set entry page, there is a code written on close page, which kind of does this. The system will return a search scan for this combination into the tree based on the value IDs generated for these dimension values that I've selected. And as soon as I hit close, the system will set the dimension set ID for that record as 3. So the same set of combination will not be recreated as it used to be get created into the older versions of Dynamics Nav. And that way, Microsoft is able to manage bigger databases with less info about dimensions. Even if you delete document, as I said, the dimension combination will still be intact and will not be removed from the system. If you are creating a custom table or doing anything else where you need a dimension set ID, it's better to position it at the field number 480 because that's what Microsoft uses throughout the application for dimension set ID. So that makes it easier because not in the implementation, but for sure in upgrades, we have seen that if you set it to the exact ID, the upgrade code looks for the field ID as 480 while trying to look for the dimension set ID field. So it makes it easier for the system to understand that this is the dimension set ID field that's available. The second part of the question was how dimension on requisition line flow from purchase order to line. So it's just again based on the dimension set ID field. I haven't checked the code. Either it's transfer field because it's at the same ID, or they might be assigning the value from the requisition line dimension set ID to the purchase order or line dimension set ID. That way, the integer value moves from one type of from the requisition line to the purchase order. And when you try to open up the dimension page, you end up to see the value of that numeric value, which is something like this. So technically on each document, what is stored is an integer reference of that combination. And then if you want to kind of explore that, then you go into the dimension page and it shows you that. So hope that answers Tanya's question. Anything else on this one?
Here, when you try to rename any of the dimension value, actually the dimension the dimension value ID doesn't get changed, and in all the posted records, we get the the dimension value would have changed, say from area north, it would have changed to something like northeast or south, but yeah, so it actually is not, I mean, we get changed values everywhere because the dimensions value ID is same.
Right, because and Balaji maybe as an it's a kind of a technical thing, but the dimension value ID is set to auto increment, so the ID doesn't change, and that's that's how the auto increment field works in Nav or Business Central. That it automatically gets a number. You can't even assign a number to it, so it always gets an incrementing number based on the last number that's used, and that's why it doesn't change. And yes, the reason of using the dimension value ID is so that if you rename the dimension values, it doesn't impact the whole engine because it's just referring to an integer value which will not change even if you rename your dimension value.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, anyone? And then should we continue what's new in the next week also?
Hi, Saurav. I have one question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Bharat.
Migration of on-prem data to cloud. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, actually have tried with the migration of on-prem data to cloud with the migration tool in the cloud. So the setup everything have done, and I upgraded. Yes, I migrated the on-prem BC16 data to BC19 to the online. So it was
Mm-hmm.
successfully done at the first case. The data is migrated is just the customer and the vendor master data and the posted invoice everything. So the
Mm-hmm.
next thing I have a question is, so I had created one of the custom table with the 50,000 range in the on-prem.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have created a new table, and the table is available in the SQL also. So
Mm-hmm.
I have done the migration again with that custom table. There is a option called mapping the custom tables in the migration tool. I have given the mapping also with a given extension and the table name everything. So the data is not migrated. The table is giving a warning with the table does not exist in the local instance. But I see the table is available in both the cloud and the on-prem.
You don't have to give the mapping. That's as far as I know. As in, we do upgrades to SaaS, and you don't have to do a custom mapping on that cloud replication setup window, because the way the replication tool works is when you configure your Azure Data Lake or whatever that
Yeah,
installer that gets installed, right?
yeah, right, right.
At that particular moment of time, whatever tables that you have in your on-prem installation,
Hmm.
if the name of the table matches to the SaaS installation,
Okay,
then
it
it will
migrates
replicate.
according to the table ID, right?
No, table name, not ID. Table
With the
name.
table name. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
As soon as you switch or upgrade from BC14 to any higher version, table IDs and field IDs are no longer relevant. The AL engine works on table names.
table name. Yeah, okay, okay,
So if you have an extension where you used a field 50,000 and now you think you want to rename it to 90,000, it doesn't consider as a destructive change. But if
okay,
you try to rename the field, that is considered as a destructive change.
okay,
And
okay.
same applicable for any other object. IDs are no longer, relevant more or less. Microsoft is trying to shift from the ID model to the name model.
Okay, so as per my knowledge, like the next time I should not give the table custom mapping. So I
You
should
don't
run the
have to give, yeah. You should do this that as soon as you start your application, before that on your SaaS environment, do install the same extension that you have on on-prem. So
yeah,
with the
I have
same,
did that one. I installed the
yeah,
same
this,
extension with that.
yeah. So if the table names are same, it because if you see that window, it talks about it shows you the whole table name, which means the company name, the table name, and then the extension keyword, and it
Right.
searches for that combination in your local SQL instance.
Okay, okay.
So the name should be same because it's a one-to-one mapping of your SQL table to your SaaS environment.
Okay. Okay.
So just keep it same and it'll work.
Okay. I will do that, and I will run the migration without giving the custom mapping, and I will try.
Okay, and one more thing, as in for everyone, if you're migrating or replicating from BC14 or any higher version to BC SAS, remember that there is one more option after your last replication is over, is to run data upgrade.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
you have to run it because when you're not replicating from the same version of Business Central SaaS to Business Central on-prem as of today BC19, then there are some features which have been changed, and Microsoft have to run those steps in that data migration step. So, like if you are replicating from BC14, the system ID concept was not available back then. So when
Right.
you run the data upgrade, Microsoft updates the system ID, which takes a lot of time on a bigger database. So we typically try to match the on-prem environment to the SaaS environment. Means that as of today, we'll migrate someone to BC19 on-prem first and then replicate to BC19 SaaS. That way, I don't have to run that step and it saves time.
Sure. So I
Okay,
have one another question.
go
Like
ahead.
I understand, right? So if I get any error in the coming days, I will try on the Monday. Can I ping you in the LinkedIn or somewhere in the message chat so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
that's
get
okay.
any?
That's okay. Not a problem.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, anything else, anyone? And should we continue what's new in the next week?
Yeah, I believe
Sure.
so. Because there will be
Okay.
a lot of new things.
Okay, sir. So yeah, enjoy your Sunday, and then we'll see you next week. And Sam, if you want to stay, we can stay and talk about it.
Yes, please. I'm still here.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Saurav.
Thank you, others. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Let me stop recording.